Greetings, dear ones. This is the 17th of October, Friday, the 17th of October. We're already ending or going towards the end of October. Speaking of which, I do want to let everyone know that we are going to be having, I think it's the 18th All Souls, All Saints event. And we are going to be utilizing some of the deepest levels of all those energetics that are embedded into the labyrinth outside here. We also are going to include a lot of the energetics from today's subject matter of lanterns and being lanterns and incorporating lanterns and utilizing lanterns. And so I'm inviting you there. I'll post the information. I'll put up the event today. But it is a very, very powerful time, not only because of All Hallows Eve, Samhain, but All Souls and All Saints was developed based on very ancient practices that the church then hijacked and kind of put an overlay of it because people were not ceasing to celebrate those particular points in the cycles of the year. And so we'll talk more about that another time, but it's generally on the 2nd of November to incorporate both All Souls, All Saints, Samhain, many things. So please look for that. And I invite you to get kind of comfortable. We are going to be talking a little bit about the symbolic representation of lanterns, their significance throughout history, throughout many different a huge, beautiful bird just passed by. It was not a vulture and it was not a hawk. I believe it was a heron. So that's very special to have that visitor come right at this moment. And I'll refer to that at another time, post here what it may have been messaging to us. And as well, how we are becoming lanterns, and in particular, lanterns of freedom. So many of you may have seen the post I put up earlier as I was preparing for this over the last few days. A beautiful oracle card popped out. One of so many different images and sources. I'm trying to get so you can see the light. You are a beacon for others, and that goes for everyone, right? And she's holding that lantern or light in her hand. So lanterns have been significant throughout history, not only as means of being able to move at night, to be able to travel at night, but also, within buildings, within sacred structures, but moreover, as a representation of a passage from darkness to light, and particularly, illuminating, enlightening, as we move through this darkness that humanity has entered into. And those of you who have worked with me or have participated in workshops or listened to any of I think there's now about 200 videos on YouTube, are aware that I don't actually speak a lot in dark and light as many other resources do, because there's an implied kind of hierarchy within much of that referencing. And for me, I've been teaching for many years of mutual duality, the abject beauty within the darkness, or from the darkness, or as a result of the darkness, if you will. and that it is certainly, as far as physically and emotionally and spiritually, preferable, because darkness usually, and this is more the reference points that I use, is about destruction, about ending, about ceasing life, ceasing movement, ceasing growth, maintaining an overarching power or an overarching control. Even when we're looking at beyond, and well, let me put it this way, that goes from an individual basis, whether it's one person over another, whether it is a leader over a country, whether it is an overarching theme of a planet, or whether it is when we frame it within the galaxy or within the universe. There is a constant destruction and creation going on. There is never any instance where destruction just comes and there is not creation simultaneously going on. Even if it's unseen, even if it is underneath, even if it is at a different pace, but it is constant. In the universe, there is no separation between the two, interestingly enough. So this passage from what's referred to as darkness to light, for what we're going through right now, is a passage of the old destructive, oppressive, domineering, controlling, which all of those have forms of destruction within them, or wanting to end, certainly end personal freedom, certainly end personal growth, certainly end, and again, countrywide or nationwide as well, to end freedom, to end growth, to end expansion, to end enlightenment, whether that's through knowledge or whether it's through species psycho-emotional growth. So this symbol of the lantern is very, very significant, because the lantern shields its light. It is held within a form. I actually just received some lovely, they came in this morning. It hasn't actually had a chance to charge itself, but they are solar lanterns that will be part of our event on All Souls Day, All Saints, All Souls, but also as a symbol for today's energetics. So they're shielded from the wind, from the rain, so that light or illumination can continue. And interestingly, I had a client this week who was asking, how do you stay informed? How do you still be aware of what's going on in the world, what's going on in your country, but not be overwhelmed by it, or get lost in it, or be overcome by it? And I think the lantern is a beautiful symbol of that as you're burning more brightly, that you can place filters, if you will. And moreover, you can allow that knowledge, that information, to illuminate you on particularly what and how it's touching into a very personal place for you. So that symbology of dispelling ignorance and the gaining of knowledge, it being the path to understanding. And that's what we do in one-on-one sessions in the proprietary process that was developed over decades, and that I work when I'm working with clients one-on-one, is these patterns we truly live from. We truly, in our physical and psycho-emotional bodies, believe that that is the way it is, until such time as those covers or blockages by your defense system keep you from knowing what you know. Because this is knowledge that's within. We've had this. We knew as little children, not on a brain level, but on a much deeper level, a physioenergetic level, a cellular level, that what we were experiencing was wrong, that it wasn't the way it was supposed to be, and was not in any way what our primal, deep, intuitional, instinctive systems were expecting. So we had to shut down that knowledge, that inner light, that inner information, because we could not live for the next 18, 16, 15, whatever it was, years with the knowledge of how contrary to what is natural to us we were experiencing, and the fact that we had no power and no control over it, and were trapped in it for that many years, 15, 18 years. So in other words, we are shutting down our own knowledge, our own innate, our own instinctive, deep knowing, and had to in order to survive, and then kind of twisted it, distorted it, in order to attempt to not only live in it, but to counteract it in some way, whether it was adjusting ourselves, our way of being, who we are, doing something, becoming something for them. In other words, kind of putting on this costume, these masks always. So in the process, when I'm working with clients, what's happening is that it is gaining that knowledge again, the bringing back that channel of what you know to be true deep within you, your own inner knowing. And again, that is one of the symbols or one of the things that the lantern symbolizes, is that inner light. In this case, for me, it's inner knowledge. So you're dispelling the ignorance and regaining the inner knowledge that you have and that you came in with and that has always been there, and which leads you on to that path of understanding who you are, and therefore in your ability to interact or be with what's going on in the world, what's going on with another. Just checking my notes. Another symbolism is finding one's way, right? Through that personal and global challenges. How do you find your way? That's what I was just referring to. How do you stay in touch with what's going on, take actions, because we must. This is our world, it is our life, it is our country. So we must make those decisions and those choices, whether it's to purchase or not purchase something from a certain company, whether it is to show up at your township meeting because you're not in agreement with them clear-cutting a whole area of an ecosystem that is helping our environment, or whether it's, to protest at this point, the amount of kidnappings that are going on. Doing something. I'm not remembering who it was that said the best answer to grief is to take action. The best answer to anger and frustration is to take action. We have tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 18th. Tomorrow is the second No Kings protest march. And If you didn't participate the first time around, I encourage you to do so. Here in this area, most of them probably around the country are starting at noon their time, within their time zone. And it is an extremely uplifting and very, very powerful way to make your presence known to yourself, as well as to your community, as well as to your country. That this is your choice. You are not choosing, you are choosing to not accept, to not go along with what seemingly where we're heading, or we are heading. There was a beautiful post the other day, I believe I saved it somewhere, of 3 young people at the very start of Hitler's moving into power, and how they were making pamphlets and making their voices heard, and were subsequently executed by, I believe it was the Gestapo had a hold of them. But the point is that throughout history, people have stood up. People have made their voices known. Prior to this, we really had very little power and ability to unite in that effort. Right now, because of the internet, because of phones, we have the ability to organize and get word out of something that's going on in your neighborhood, something that's going on in your state. And I really encourage you to seek out those sources. There is a great committee with Indivisible here locally, Cooper River Indivisible, a committee of local, I think they call local government, and they're just people, signing up to volunteer to go to school board meetings and to local township meetings and county meetings. And that way, if there's a group, I talked about this probably 5 years ago in one of the Friday videos about, collaborating with one another and cooperating. And that is part of the new way. This structure, this pyramidal structure that I've referred to so often, people call it the patriarchy, but it's so much more. It just so happens that that is the particular gender that has been at the heart of the power and the control over the past however many years, 10,000 years. But the new way has been coming in for quite some time, and I've been teaching about this for many years. The feminine way doesn't mean females or, we're all going to now, have another gender in control and in power and continuing that pyramidal structure. Instead, it entails 5 different aspects that I've been teaching of, at least. And that is connection, communication, cooperation, collaboration, and communing, or in this case, community. And when we do that, it isn't all on us. We aren't all alone. We aren't the only ones. It doesn't feel overwhelming. If you have together, 5 different people who are willing to go to 2 or 3 different township meetings, then when this one can't make it, the other one can. And now they're all on video, so you don't even have to get out of your house in the weather and what have you. So, and then you kind of report back to one another, and then that can go onto a wider mailing list. Hey, I've tried to let people know, for example, we were advised a long time ago about this huge increase in our electricity. And I tried to let people know that it is the Utility Commission, which is, I believe, 6 people that are appointed and are in there for 6 years. And that's not always a good thing. Excuse me, it's too long and can get very, very entrenched and very connected into the powers that they are supposed to be having oversight, over which they're supposed to be having oversight, but can often be influenced, cajoled, bribed, what have you. I'm not saying that they are, but it is a possibility. If no one is watching, things can go on. This is why we have a democracy. It is participation of everyone. And we could have gone to those meetings. They're public meetings, and see who's making decisions and what decisions they're making. And then follow through with which representatives within our state are choosing to back that deregulation, or the choosing of whether it's fossil fuels or renewables. We have the power to do this, but it does entail that connection, communication, collaboration, cooperation, and communing or community. And that, goes along with being this beacon. Each of us can be a beacon. Each of us can represent that illumination by doing our own work first and foremost, and illuminating ourselves to ourselves, and bringing forward that inner knowledge for us to be able to move from and work from and choose from every day. And then as such, then people are wanting to know. I have clients after years, it's like, what, why are you so happy? Why is your life going so well? Why are you, magicking all of these wonderful things in your life? And it is because they have done that deep level of internal transmutation and transfiguration. So if that's something, if again you've reached a point where you do not want to live this way anymore, you do not want to repeat those patterns, you do not want your life to be confined and restricted and limited anymore, then please reach out. I'm doing a wide variety of sessions at this point, from the very, very deepest and most accelerated to just touch points of alchemical alignment, so that you can have a little bit of illumination, and also some very strong alchemical combining of your energetics, the current energetics, and those of the healer's universe, to be able to help you along your way. So these patterns are we see them cyclically, right? And another thing that is very, very current right now are the cycles of life, cycles of the nature, cyclical nature of life. And we used lanterns for many years, as I said, to be able to travel in the dark, to be able to move from one location to another. But at this point, we have too much illumination at night. There are lights all over the place, which is not good for the earth. It heats up the earth. It is not good for our sleep, because we have too much invading light. Even when we, have the dark curtains or what have you, it's still there. The energy of the light is still there, not allowing us to go into that cycle of sleep in darkness, not allowing the cyclical nature of night critters to be able to move and do and eat and procreate as they need to. So we have to watch the cycles of life, the cycles of light. Right now, we're moving into a time when it's getting darker each day here on the East Coast, much earlier. And we have this artificial placement of, Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time. And the choosing of the dates when that happens, it was, it actually is obsolete. It was created for a wide variety of reasons, but it is not necessarily natural to our body, our psyche's cycle of day and night, of seasons, and certainly not of that of the earth. And that's one of the things that disconnects us. We disconnect from that cyclical nature of our bodies, our lives, the seasons, the earth and its movement, daily, monthly, yearly, etc., seasonally. And that causes us to shut down again our own knowing, our own inner knowing of this is when I want to sleep, this is when I want to work, this is when I want to do something else. And there is a way we're creating it, we're moving into it. There is a way for each person to be in their own cyclical way of life and rhythm in future, that it doesn't have to be this 9 to 5. It doesn't have to be an arbitrary outside decision of how society functions. One of my favorite examples of that is the movie 9 to 5, where they are creating all kinds of different shifts for people to be able to accommodate to people's lives, personal lives. So there is a way for each individual and companies and businesses to be able to all be diverse, or not all, but for much diversity, and still within a unified way of growth and creation for everyone. One of the other symbols of a lantern is that, as it moves, whether it used to be on a long pole to be able to illuminate as we were walking, whether it's on the side of a carriage, excuse me, or the early cars, it is actually, moving. And so there's this beautiful dance of light and shadow, which we all go through every single day, right? We encounter something, we get upset by something, and if we utilize that to explore into what is hidden, and that's simply something in shadow. Shadow does not necessarily imply malevolence or evil or in any way badness, but simply that which is not completely visible. And so we have those shadow places within. And when we follow those shadow places and illuminate ourselves to who we are, then that dance continues, and there is generally more illumination, more light, more ability to be that lantern and that beacon. Just checking my notes. Another fascinating, wonderful point that came through was, or a symbolic reference was, hope, and lanterns being hope and safe passage for those seeking freedom. Because throughout history, and certainly in our history, the Underground Railroad utilized lanterns in very specific ways to indicate what was a safe house, the direction to go in towards freedom. So it's a beautiful symbol in that way for us as well. That illumination, that dispelling of ignorance and gaining of knowledge allows for us to move ever more towards freedom, our own personal freedom and collective freedom. And another was the cultural references. We have so many different holidays. Dia de los Muertos is very important. There and in many other countries there's something similar where you illuminate with candles or lanterns, particularly cemeteries, because oftentimes it was a way to assist those that had passed to follow a light to their next life, their next existence, to heaven, whatever you may believe in, whatever the culture may believe in. And then we have, the beautiful Asian Lantern Festival that we've actually done several times over the years in workshops. Oftentimes it has been to build a very eco-friendly float with a very eco-friendly light, and let them go into a waterway, Cooper River, one of the creeks nearby. We've done it there. And the Asian festival now is both done as that, in waterways, and also in the balloon-like lanterns that go up into the sky. Although I understand those can have detrimental effects on the environment. So if you choose to utilize that means of connecting with ancestors or sending your prayers up, another reason for the lanterns, is please be mindful of certainly any fire hazards, and moreover any damage to the environment. I have purchased some that are environmentally friendly, so they are out there. And do allow yourself to play with and explore and find different lanterns, whether it's this type, whether it's floating lanterns, whether it's the sky lanterns, and really let yourself feel the nature of, feel the energy of, feel what it is that a lantern gives, what can interfere with the lantern's light, what can extend or expand or enlarge that light. If you play with it, if you move it towards the ground, there's a very small area of illumination. The higher you raise it, the wider. So again, I encourage you to find a lantern, build a lantern, experiment with lanterns, and of course be the lantern. And one of the other statements, of course, that I aligned with, and let me back up for one moment why this even came across as a subject matter or as a title for today's video, is that I had what some people may refer to as a dream, but I'm very aware, given the energetics and the psycho-navigation and the shape-shifting that I have done and do on a regular basis, that this was what I refer to as a traveling dream, that you were actually in another existence. And most of you are very familiar with this or have experienced it, maybe not knowing what to label it, but you actually feel yourself. It's different than lucid dreaming, but you actually feel yourself in that particular setting, doing something, saying something. And in this particular traveling dream, I was actually holding a lantern and working with a lantern, and just it was a whole experience with the lantern. Came awake with it so firmly in my physio-energetic, sensation. And then for days, it's been at least a week, maybe more, that the very later on that same morning, a very dear friend had done an event, and with a particular, again, it's kind of that same lantern that I shared with you, that type of lantern. And she had this big event with people, and there she was with the lantern. It was a very particular use of the lantern in this event. And then listening to a Rosicrucian meditation, and it was surrounding a particular piece of art with someone holding a lantern. It was just constant, over and over and over again, from at least 10 to 15 different sources and resources were lanterns, not light, not candle, but particularly lanterns. And this beautiful glow that comes from a lantern. And as I was doing research, one of the strong symbologies is of light guiding toward the future. And that certainly is what we are within right now, is being those lanterns, being the beacons, being the illuminator, if you will. Not by necessarily teaching people or going out there and doing something to get people to be illuminated, although that may be your choice of career or what have you, but simply being who you are and being that beacon as you live and walk and move and breathe throughout your daily life. Did I mention all the festivals? Yes. Ramadan was another that wasn't very anciently, but they used the lantern to light the passageway of the caliph as he was going through the town for this particular festival, and would, give blessing. And so it symbolizes both hope and blessing during the time of Ramadan. So it's just an indicator that throughout many, many cultures, if we would search, I'm sure, in all ancient cultures, there is some sort of reference to and symbology and significance to lanterns. And that all led up actually to a practice that I did with a colleague. We get together rather regularly, and we both have been doing this for so many years that we go down to the absolute depth, both personally and then further into hereditary, lineage, cultural, species, planetary depths, as well as out to the universe. We both work on a universal level and on a regular basis. And as we were working together this week, my colleague encountered this incredible golden, glowing, energetic that in a human form or wording could be considered this universal love, or universal wide love within and through everything. But our wording and our concept of love is very narrow compared to the experience of that universal love, and certainly what she was experiencing and transmitting. And I don't know if it was the same afternoon or the next day, an article came across my desk from SciTech Daily, and they have uncovered hidden rings of light deep in the universe that give off an incredible golden glow. And I will post that here because that article and the images are fascinating. And so this is a universal level of this golden glow that brings us personally and or collectively, humanly, to this representation and symbology of a lantern, to that inner light within, and our bodies, our energy fields kind of being the surrounding structure to that light, to that beautiful glow. And that lantern is that hope and safe passage to freedom for those seeking freedom. And so I invite you to, again, kind of work with, play with, explore lanterns, explore the type of light that comes from that. And I foresee us having vigils, both, kind of certainly in the work I will be doing with people, evening events, working with, illumination within an enclosed, encased structure, jar, what have you. But I think we're going to see a lot more vigils at night. Certainly Portland, there's a lot of different places. Again, in Europe, huge protests or people out in the streets with lanterns, with lights of all sort. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that representation. And certainly today we're also bringing in the ancestors, because so many of those traditions, whether it's the Dia de los Muertos, the Lantern Festival, throughout history, lanterns in particular are inviting in or remembrance of one's ancestors. So yes, we have a lot of energetics from many different sources and resources that we're going to utilize right now as we drop into the container that has been building and creating for the past week. And even those who are not here today, who would have liked to be, or who are going to be listening at a future date, because of the wide knowledge and extent of our universe and the cosmos behind it, if you will, time is not linear, and so therefore if you're going to listen even a couple years in the future, the energetics that are here today blending together in an incredible alchemical mixture for creating illumination personally, globally, universally, that is still going to be accessible. So please don't worry when you listen to this. It is the perfect moment, and you will be receiving the perfect combination and blending and alchemical result of those energetics. So lastly, I just want to see if the plant masters have anything to add. And those of you who, let's see if you can see, there is a huge case of, they're very heavy, many oils. And when I'm working with the plant masters, tree masters, flower masters that are within these young living oils, I only use these because there is such high respect and honor and care with which the land, the seed, the soil, the seed, the plant, every single step of the way, the valuing and recognition of the wisdom within plants and flowers and trees. Not to mention tons of science behind it, because if it doesn't have science within it or around it or behind it, I really hardly can align with that. So when I'm doing this, my eyes are actually closed. I'm doing this kinesthetically, meaning that I feel, first of all, as a mirror to what's going on in the energetics. They will tell me, first and foremost, in my body and my energy field will tell me where it would be going on you if you were physically here for me to offer that to you. And then they tell me which oil, and I interpret what is being said from the characteristics of the oil and its representation and where it's going in particular within your energy field. So let's see what they have to say. So when you feel this is an interesting oil, and it's going on the heart, and it is an oil blend called finance, interestingly. And what they're indicating is that when you use your love and your heartfelt desires as your currency, it will lead you on your path. And anchoring into the highest frequency of you. This is rose. So as you use love as your currency, you will anchor into the highest frequency of you or vibration of you, thus allowing you to be excited about your path, about your walk in this life. or how you walk and where you walk. Your choices. Expressing, moving, being led by the pure truth of your passion, that true blue truth of your passion. Purifying, and this is what we were talking about earlier, the innate, that we had to cover that up, that inner knowing. We had to stop the communication from our own wider self. And so this is about purifying that line of communication, that connection, that knowing within, the master within. So that this one's very old, you can see the label is worn off from pulling it in and out. These oils last a very long time because they're very, very concentrated, because they're very, very pure, and therefore you do not need much of them at all. And this is an oil about wisdom, so that your true wisdom and your both non-human and human self, you can move back and forth and access that wisdom from your non-physical self. The other yous, if you will, because we have concurrent existences going on, which when we're able to reach deeply enough into the root of those patterns that I was referring to, it opens up a portal and a passageway for you to access those skills, talents, abilities, and knowledge from another existence. Yes. And so we are complete. As you use the currency of your love in your life, it will enable you to anchor into your highest frequency, being excited to walk your path and express and circulate the true blue passion, purifying your line of communication and connection to your inner knowing, the master within, and enabling you to move in and out of all parts of you or other existences of you to access and channel that wisdom. And so without further ado, I invite you, if you haven't already, and if you haven't already sensed and are experiencing the transmission of the energetics, please feel yourself seated on the couch or chair or floor, whatever you happen to be seated on. For this one, I encourage you to be seated rather than lying down. In other instances, the position being supine, as long as you can move air clearly through your system, and some deep breaths would be fine. But in this case, I'm hearing that it is better that you stay seated so that the energies can run up to down and down to up, from the earth up into your body, and from the higher frequencies down in and through your body. So just taking a couple of deep breaths, and if you so choose, I would encourage you to extend the exhale longer than the inhale, which enables your vagus nerve to activate, giving you much more much more of a sense of relaxation and softening. And those of you who have done work with me, you know how to allow your energy field to come down and into your body, because generally it is not. So as you are breathing deeply inwardly and extending that exhale, allowing yourself to sensate and feel the air moving through your body, the air around you. Even in a closed environment, there is always movement. And tuning into your skin, the outer edges of you, allows you oftentimes to bring your energy field inward this way, because sometimes it's very scattered. Oftentimes, as I said, we generally are living with our energy fields up and out of our bodies. So just continue a few more of those deep inhales, extended exhales, with no focus or purpose or goal, but simply to experience the air moving in and out of your body, whatever other body sensations show up. No tracking needed, no analyzing, no figuring out, just sensating your body, the air. Possibly you might be able to even feel internal organs or tissues. So feeling whatever there is to feel, physically, energetically, even emotions might arise. Nothing you need do, nothing you need focus on. Because focus will bring the energy up here again, and we want to invite your system to come in and you to be in you. So just allowing the energetics, allowing your energy field and your wider self that know exactly how to do this, how to help you come down and in you. You might even feel some heat or experience energy moving in one kind of way or another. Ultimately, perhaps even being the lantern with that glow, if you will, of energy within you. And the more you can sensate and feel and experience you as you, in you, with you, through you. And as I'm naming those ways, there's also a transmission of energies assisting you to be able to come down and in. So this is a very different form of energetic practice than you may be used to. For so often we are taught to go up and out. But the solution, the answer, the information, the inner knowledge is all within. There is so much more within you. An entire universe, as a matter of fact. Your inner verse, through which you are able to travel to wherever it may be your soul wants you to link with, to receive from, to be in at this particular moment in time. And you need not follow my words. They're unimportant. Continuing to speak so you can know that the transmission is still going on, and moreover to be able to feel the energetics being transmitted through the sound. And just keep coming back to sensating, feeling, experiencing you without analyzing, without tracking, without having to do a thing. Allow, allow, allow. Your system, your wider self, your internal wisdom to do what it knows, what they know how to do, which leaves you free to simply be in you. No work, no effort, no goal, no purpose. Just allow. Allow it to be done for you. For that inner wisdom directly connected to your soul's wisdom, which is your eternal self, directly connected to the cosmic wisdom or divine wisdom. When you find yourself kind of going up and through your third eye, just drop, let that go, for that is a much more limited avenue than you within you. So again, if you're if you're an adept or an experienced with energetics, you may feel the deepening and the sinking into what is being transmitted right at this moment. You may feel that warmth or inner golden glow within you, but there is no right, no wrong. If you feel nothing inside energetically, no worries. Your experience is exactly the right one. But that universal glow, golden warmth that represents, that has been transmitted from the very center of the universe. It's very, very powerful. So simply allow your system to be met. Again, you need not do anything. You actually cannot make this happen, but you can sensate and experience and feel you as the transmission is getting wider and deeper and stronger, not only of that universal glowing warmth, but as well you may feel or experience the ancestors, your ancestors, those ancestors that are stepping forward at this time, during this season, to be able to assist, to be able to guide, to be able to support, to be able to illuminate your path. For all those that have gone before us, have been, have chosen to be participants in this extended exploration of the particular form of polarity that we chose. To receive knowledge from over these 10,000 years. So in linear time, they may have walked before us, but in universal time, they are walking with us. As lanterns of what has been, as well as what can be. Some of those throughout history are coming forward at this point in time as they served as lanterns of freedom. As well as more recently, founding fathers, so many in other countries. Not merely societal freedom, but internal, human freedom from the confines of the destructive aspects of human nature itself. As you become more personally free, so too does that necessitate human species freedom. So knowing and feeling yourself as that lantern of freedom, and experiencing that warmth or glow or energy movement within. I invite you to allow your system, just as you did, allowing it to bring you down and in. I invite you to allow your system, your wider self, your energy field, to incorporate what you've experienced, what's been transmitted, physically incorporating that freedom that universal loving energy the connection, communication, collaboration, cooperation, and communing with these internal parts, the internal wisdom of you, the master within, along with ancestors, representations and lanterns of freedom throughout human history. Both in your family and in different nations throughout man's history. And allow your system in its way to incorporate that, integrate that deeply into your physio-energetic body, where you can revisit that. Come back and listen and drop in again and again and again, reminding your system of its natural way of being free. And then as you walk, you are being, transmitting as that lantern of freedom. And again, if you choose to stay in the energetic and keep dropping deeper, you're perfectly welcome to do so. Whenever you come back to a more physical experience, your system will be integrated, it will embody, and it will be incorporated. So, and please look for me if you'd like to experience more of that internal freedom within you, so that you are even more strongly, clearly creating pathway as a lantern of freedom for your family, for your community, for the world. And keep your eyes peeled for the All Souls, All Saints celebration, that our ceremony that I will be conducting, and at the end of the month, or actually beginning of November. So, as always, it is with the deepest of honor, gratitude, and love for your presence on the planet. Be well.